Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into this show today. Now today is Sunday, so you know what that means. We're going around the net with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And while normally this is a recap show of quick hit stories, this week is one of those weeks where there's really only one major story to talk about or worth talking about. And that is BILT Rewards and Wells Fargo, allegedly burning through $10 million in cash per month. What does it all mean? Did they miss? Is this a disaster, or is this potential massive opportunity? We're going to break all of that down in today's show. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, again, yes, this is normally a multi-story format, but every so often there's just one story that dominates the headlines. So, let's not even pretend. Let's just get into it here. Wells Fargo, BILT Rewards. So, if you haven't seen it, the Wall Street Journal put out an article, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, saying, hey, talk to former employees, and former employees were saying, hey, look, Wells is actually burning through $10 million a month dealing with this Wells Fargo partner, or dealing with this BILT Rewards partnership. And that doesn't sound great. It's a very eye-catching number, $10 million a month burn rate, pretty high there. And so if we go back really quick to get you up to speed, BILT Rewards is everyone's favorite credit card. They can pay rent. You can pay rent with and earn 1% back. It's actually the only card you can pay rent with and not incur the processing fee. It's probably part of the reason why Wells Fargo is losing money, is because someone has to pay the processing fee. Everything isn't free, despite what some people would say. Someone's got to pay it, but the customer doesn't have to pay it, which is great for the customer. And so anyways, BILT started with Evolve Bank, and then they wanted to go bigger, so they ended up with Wells Fargo, and that was kind of like a power move, because that was probably when we started looking at Wells Fargo a little bit differently. Is hey, maybe they're coming back in the card space. Before they hadn't really had a major co-branded issue, co-branded partnership, and their whole lineup was kind of decimated, really. So it looked like it worked. Plus, the BILT card, I'll put it on screen, is a really good card. I don't like that you can't cash anything out, really, but for a travel card, it's got all your major partners and everything like that. So it was a really good win. So fast forward to now, and it turns out they're actually losing $10 million a month, which is interesting, because you would think with such a unique card offering, they would be crushing it. Well, let's take a look here. So the Wall Street Journal posts, thanks to everyone who posts these things, because I'm not paying for it, right? So we'll give them credit. But there's some interesting pieces to pull out of this. And the main thing here is, again, we saw the $10 million per month from the deal that started in 2022. Now, and interestingly enough, there were projections made in-house that said customers would carry a balance, and that's how Wells would make its money. Not uncommon, you make your money off of interest. So, they thought that would not happen. I can see why you think rent's a large expense. Maybe people are carrying the rent, whatever. So as a result, Wells Fargo has also paused bringing on new co-branded partners. I think there's still something in the works with Expedia, but no one's going to care about that, I'm sure. So, the BILT contract runs through 2029. Wells Fargo does not plan to renew unless the terms are redone to favor the bank. I don't know, maybe not. You got to kind of sound like a tough guy at this point, right? So there's that. In additional things, it looks like Wells Fargo's been paying BILT about $200 per customer, which probably isn't really that much as far as customer acquisition goes. And then they had some other parts in there, but Wells Fargo is kind of fronting the transaction fees and the swipe fees and things like that. So you can kind of see partly how it gets expensive. We'll talk about that in a second. We did get a reply midweek from the, not me personally, but just Twitter world, from the CEO of BILT Rewards. I'll put it on screen for you now. We'll kind of skim through it here. I can only make it so far through media posts. Basically, let's get the record straight, because you can't believe everything you read in the news. Makes sense. Wells Fargo went on the record with Wall Street Journal stating there has been no conversation among decision makers to exit the BILT agreement. To suggest otherwise is false. Yeah, maybe, but the contract also goes to 2029, so unless you're about to fight, I don't know, why talk about it right now unless you're really ready to go to war. BILT is a loyalty network driving spend between local residents and merchants. 85% of our members use BILT's platform with their other linked Amex, Visa, MasterCards, while less than 15% of our members are Wells Fargo co-branded cardholders. That makes sense. They did just add a partnership to use your Alaska Airlines card there. He gives some vitals on the customers. 70% of BILT cardholders are new to Wells Fargo. That would make sense. Age 31, average FICO 760. These definitely are valuable customers, as he says. He also states that, hey, customer acquisition cost is usually much higher. I would agree with that. I've seen it. It's generally higher than $200. Again, he goes on to talk about we're only 18 months of the partnership. And he does talk about BILT's platform is much broader than our co-branded credit card, which makes sense. I don't know how the platform being broad helps Wells Fargo. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I just simply don't know. So, okay, decent enough response. I think he raises some fair points. I mean, we're never going to know the real answer there. So, a few things. What's happening? Well, to me, the whole thing sounds like not necessarily a bad idea, but a bad forecast, and maybe it's because you didn't know your customer. By that, I mean when you launch a new product, like if you watch the videos here, and sometimes we do these videos like the Xbox credit card, and usually after we read what the card says, I say, so who is this for? Right? Like, and that's kind of getting at what a customer persona is. It says, what do I know about this customer? So there's full diagrams. I might find one and put one on screen for you. But if you haven't done one, it essentially says, okay, Apple, people who like iPhones are also into this music, this kind of deal. They have these kind of spending habits. What do we know about this person? You almost make a fake person, and that really helps you understand who you're selling the card to. Or the phone in that example. We'll switch back to cards, right? And so we use that. Well, I asked that question because that's how I'm going to know if it's a good or bad product, and like who's it for, who got to recommend it for. So I think they got their customer personas wrong, interestingly enough, because to say, we're going to make money off the carry, the people carrying a balance, clearly was wrong. But if I look at the marketing where I see this card, I only ever see it marketed through TPG and through other various YouTube hosts. I know at one point I was asked to join a call, like, hey, do you want BILT affiliate links? And I have one through Sebby and Mandy's program, but if you're asking me, it means you're asking everybody. I mean, I'm nothing special by any means. And so all that to say is, like, I don't know the average mainstream person who's got the BILT. I'm sure someone does. I mean, Wells Fargo is a major bank, but it seems like it really caught on here in this niche, and this niche is never going to carry the balance. Also, I think because rent is one of those things that you're not normally going to carry because most people want to check, or I get paid rent through Venmo. Most people are going to be used to paying that off. So I think that was a bad one. The other thing is how the card itself works. While, again, it is a good card, like it went through like 2 iterations. But one iteration, that one we're on now, like you do have to make a certain amount of transactions per month to keep in the money for rent. But people can just make Amazon reloads. And I know, I don't even supposed to say this, but I'm pretty sure like if you're making BILT videos now, like you're not supposed to make reference to the fact that you can do that. So, you've got a card that's very niche, as you guys know, that you're using for like one thing, and you're automating your 5 or 6 transactions. And so they're not making a ton of money on swipe fees. The one swipe fee they're making, Wells Fargo actually has to front the 3% on that. So I can see the problem for sure, but I don't think it's a problem with the deal. Well, I mean, the deal a little bit needs to change, but I think these things can be overcome. Why? I think this is actually an amazing opportunity for Wells Fargo, and the $10 million just looks bad. And it looks bad because you didn't expect it, because there's a difference between our favorite hero banker, Mr. Diamond, coming out and saying, I wish I could burn more money on the Sapphire Reserve bonus in 2016, right? That's different because that's not a surprise. It's like, I want to lose more, versus Wells, this executive, whoever they're interviewing at Wells, being like, oh man, these idiots, they didn't even know. Very simply put, this is not the same Wells Fargo of 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Again, you don't have to forgive them. You don't have to get over that. I'm not asking you to do any of that. But objectively, this is not the same Wells Fargo. We cover Wells Fargo every other week. I'm pretty sure if you go back in the catalog of videos, we've covered Wells Fargo more than we've covered American Express, unlike anchor story title of the video of the Sunday show. We didn't used to do that. If you go back through their portfolio, yeah, sure, the Journey was the Autograph was a good card, is a good card, but it got a pass because they just rebranded the Propel. Whatever, fine. Journey, certified banger. I know I'm in the minority, but if you painted it blue, as I've said, people would have lost their mind. The Attune card, which we talked about yesterday, a surprise card. I don't know if I'd go banger status, but it's comparable to the Freedom Flex, honestly. I mean, the amount of categories and multipliers you have, and no guessing, it's up there. Again, if you painted it blue, people would lose their mind. Active Cash is a solid 2% card. There's nothing to complain about, but Chase doesn't have a 2% card. They do. You see my point. You're coming back. This is a different Wells Fargo. Why is that important? Because the Sapphire worked because the products were set up to cross-sell. I understand we all love to think we're geniuses when we figure out the Chase trifecta, but it was designed to be that way. We didn't figure anything out, and now Wells Fargo potentially has that, and now they have the cross-sell platform to do it. So if I'm bringing in a ton of people through BILT Rewards, which is a very unique product that no one else has, now, someone else will figure this out, but no one else has this product, and most people don't want to switch to 1,000 different banks like we do, that's a good enough product to get you in the door. So even if I am losing $1 million a month, if it only really costing me to acquire a customer for $200, if that part is true, and I can start selling a bunch of other things, that's a win. Like that, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just need to develop my strategy on how to cross-sell you. And wouldn't you know it, the thing that people hated about the Journey card was really focused on the transfer partners. And wouldn't you know it, everyone loves BILT Rewards transfer partners. Now, there's a lot of things we simply don't know, and you could tell this could entirely mathematically not work inside when you look at the numbers. But I think that's your tie-in. Why can't I just set it up? I want a new deal. Okay, let me be able to transfer my Wells Fargo points to BILT Rewards and then send them to the partners. I assume you'd have to go to the partners and talk to the Hyatts and the Marriotts and whoever else they have. I'm like, hey, look, you're gonna be getting an influx of points. But you know what those guys love to do? Sell points and then devalue them later. And they're gonna devalue them no matter what. So you might as well make it work for you, right? That's kind of where I'm at with this. In other news, this card is focused on rent, but we still push the American dream of home ownership on people. Why now I have a bunch of information on renters. How can I develop programs to get them to mortgage originations, to purchase loans? It's actually banking. Mortgage is like the one of the few products where like we actually do a good job because the sale matters and like staying in touch with the customer matters, and so that could be a great entry point. Can I develop products around that? Can I develop programs like, hey, you're BILT, you start with Wells Fargo and we help you work through your credit and financing issues to get you into new originations easier. Can we build, unique originating opportunities? I don't know. I mean, there's a ton of opportunity there all around the cross sell. And if I'm getting people for $200 into my ecosystem, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think I just got to assemble the parts. The parts are there. So I really don't, even though, it's $10 million a month, I feel like they're actually could be really good and they're actually really close to figuring this thing out. Across the product line. If that's the thing that gets people in the door, that's a unique product that no one has, that no one else has yet, and no one else has touched it because BILT has been around for quite some time, certainly long enough for someone to replicate it, and they've chosen not to. Now, it could be because it's not profitable, but I don't think that's it. Mr. Diamond throwing away $200 million on the Sapphire, he's not afraid to do this. So, still some things we need to change, though. I mean, you got to restructure the deal a little bit. I think that rewards points piece, or you can play around with that possibly. Again, we just don't know. The card structure has to change. It does. You can't have people just automating 5 swipes. Even if you do get rid, even when Amazon reloads are $5 now, you can't have people just going to buy bananas at the store or whatever. I mean, we'll put the card on screen again for you, but that's kind of how I see it. Like, you can't really proceed like that. Maybe they need some help on the processing or transaction fees. Like, I could see that as well. I don't think you want to add an annual fee to it. I don't think you want to add coupons to it because that's going to be off-putting to a lot of people. I think you could even look to maybe bring in a tie-in to, again, why has no one ever done preferred rewards, or some kind of relationship aspect to having the card. I could see that as well. Because you got to remember, you might be upset at me saying that, but they're really not. We're on the extreme. They're not really trying to get us. We're actually probably the problem right now. So I could see something like that maybe to help out. In addition, you probably got to tighten up the rent controls a little bit from the standpoint of I don't think there's anything stopping you from just saying you rent a home. I mean, how far you're not supposed to do any of this, but I mean, you could just draw up a lease agreement. You can do a lot of things. So I mean, again, you got to find out a way how can I get more real customers? How can I keep the fraudsters out? Because there's definitely nothing stopping you from just running money through it. And then how can I at least manage our group of people? I think those are the 3 things you got to do. Probably get your swipe fees down a little bit. Customer acquisition costs, I don't think can actually go any lower. $200 per new customer with those vitals, again, if everything is true, I think is actually a really big win, and why I'm on the whole cross-selling piece. So again, I mean, a lot of this is just speculation and conversation, fun conversation at that. Like, I really was looking forward to getting behind the camera today when the story came out, earlier this week. But I think there's a lot there. And, yes, the $10 million makes you look like idiots, but fine. I mean, sometimes you get things wrong. I just think the customer persona needs to be tweaked and better understood, better understand your marketing channels and who's actually getting a hold of this card. That would go a long way. And then, I do think you got to, do something with the deal to lower your costs a little bit. I mean, already they're not even offering an intro offer on this card, which is why I haven't really plugged it much myself. I mean, we have one over at profitabilitycontent.com if you want, but I need an intro offer myself, so I understand. But anyway, I think we've rambled about this enough. Long story short to close. Yeah, it's probably $10 million a month. I think both sides make interesting points. The truth generally lies somewhere in the middle, and I think this is potentially a solid move, solid starting point for Wells Fargo to really come back and take advantage of this. And a few more years from now, with a few more little work and tweaks, they could be sitting there telling their story like the Sapphire Reserve, like, I wish I could have lost $20 million a month or whatever. And they could look like geniuses. Or, I mean, they could do absolutely nothing, and we could be wrong on all this. But that's the fun of it, right? Strong predictions. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. So, of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel, as we're posting content just like this every single week. And, of course, right back every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. Of course, every single day over on ProfitableContent.com. The channel's blog, we not only have the latest news stories, we have bank promotions from Wells Fargo, and we have the BILT card if you are interested in all this as well. So, of course, always linked down below for you and on the channel homepage. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this long one, focused video on one topic. Back to the normal format next week, depending on what happens, I guess, in the news. You never know. That's the fun part of it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.